Hello everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Well, hello, beautiful people. Hope you are well. Thank you very much for joining the Spirit Lounge today. And as usual, I have Miss Glenda over there in Australia here with me as well. Hello, Glenda, my darling.
Hello, David. Hello, everyone out there. How's your week been?
Yeah, busy. What about yours?
Yes, very busy. Lots of readings this week. I had to open up an extra day. So, yeah, lots of readings.
Oh, Miss Popular. Oh, fabulous.
Oh. Everyone wants a bit of me this week. So I won't say no.
No, absolutely. And Glenda's your girl, people. If you want those readings, get booking in. But apart from that, let's dig straight into today's episode. Now, Glenda, I have to tell you why the idea has come to me. So as people know, yes. So people know we are quite. Don't want to say that we're picky or finicky. If that's the right word, but both of us are passionate about how we share knowledge, how we teach, using the right terminology so people understand, and making sure people have the right information about how this works. Because as we know, there are lots of skeptics out there who don't believe what we do. There are people that will question it, which is fine, because it's okay to question. It's okay to be slightly skeptical. I certainly am with certain things, and you are as well. I think we're quite similar, that we don't put everything down to spirit. Not everything's got a spiritual reason. There are other things at play here as well. So when I hear well-known, established mediums say things or talk about things in the wrong way, or not being able to give an answer about something, I get slightly concerned. So in this case, people, we're talking about what is the difference between a psychic and a medium. Now, I know this has probably been talked to death on plenty of podcasts that you've watched or heard or whatever else, but it's only come about because I was listening to a podcast in the car. I listen to quite a few podcasts with the journeys that I do, and it was quite a well-known medium in the UK who's been doing this work for over 50 years, was being interviewed on this podcast and was asked a question. So what is a psychic medium? And the answer was, oh, me, I am.
I would have turned it straight off then.
Then she was asked, okay, so what's the difference between a psychic and a medium? And she could not give, from my eyes or my ears, a correct answer. Her answer was, well, psychic is just a generic term and medium falls underneath it. And I'm like, well, no, that's wrong. And I've heard her say the same thing on another podcast she was interviewed on. And I'm thinking in my head, well, if you've been doing this work for over 50 years, I would have hoped that you'd be able to give a clearer answer than what you just did. Because if you're someone that has millions of followers, which this person does, those millions of followers are listening to you and following you and being educated by you. And if you're educating people in the wrong way, there's no wonder why people do not understand the differences between the two. And it's important that I'm not trying to be a snob about it, right? But I believe that if you're doing a certain job, you need to know what you are doing and what you are representing, and the client needs to know what they're coming to see you for.
That's right. What are you booking for?
What you're booking for. But I've heard the same thing from two other mediums, two very well-known, high-profile mediums in the US as well, who cannot give a definitive answer about what the difference is between being a psychic and being a medium. And again, in my mind, it just concerns me because, again, people are watching these high profile people thinking that it's something that it isn't. And that gives an easy space for the skeptics to then come in and say, well, it's all rubbish. Well, of course, they're going to think that if they're given a rubbish answer. So this is why I want to talk about this and give my viewpoint and our viewpoint on the difference between a psychic and a medium. And so then people understand when they book a particular type of reading, they know what they're getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's it. And this is all our interpretation. I mean, we don't claim to know everything, and I don't know who does, but it's the way that we view things, the way that we understand things, and the way that we work. So this is just our opinion and the way that we work and understand psychic work and mediumship work. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, well said. Yeah. Okay. So shall I give my opinion? Shall I give my viewpoint?
go on.
Okay. So people, are you ready? The psychic, I always put it as the psychic is what works with a living energy. So a psychic is someone who can work with a client, look into potentially their past, present, their future. They can maybe pick up on current events, world events, but it's about things that are happening now. Again, it could be, we get a little hit about what's to come in 2025 or 2026, or you might look at a person and go, right, this is going on in your life. Here's some guidance around that as well. So it's very much about connecting to the soul of a living person, because the word psychic comes from the term of the soul. So that's what it's about. It's about reading energy, interpreting energy, picking up what you pick up about what's going on around us on this earthly planet. Does that make sense so far? Yeah,
that's right. Reading that auric field, what is going on in their life. You're reading their information, their emotions. You're reading their thoughts, their mind, their wishes. You're picking up on all of that.
Yeah. So it is about the living people, not the dead. So a medium is not even the opposite to it, but the medium is what term says. We are the middle person between this life and the next. So as a medium, our job as a medium is to connect to the spirit world, to bring through that, not necessarily evidence, no, not proof, but evidence of survival. So connecting with your loved ones, bringing through the evidence, bringing through the messages. A medium is not there to talk about you necessarily, right? Obviously, you're involved in the conversation, but they're here to connect to your loved ones, bringing through the evidence to give you that, again, that proof of survival. But they're not there to talk about your future, to talk about what's going on in your life necessarily. They are two very different functions. And what I also will say is, one isn't better than the other. And I'm saying that because I think in the mediumship world, the spiritual world, I think sometimes psychics are looked down on as being a lesser skill than being a medium. And it's not. No, we need both the psychic and the medium.
Yeah.
And remember this saying as well, and the reason it's important to differentiate the two is because not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. So whether you like it or not, if you are a medium, you have the psychic function. You need to understand that to be able to do your work as well, because as a medium, you are still using your psychic senses in some way, shape, or form. But as a psychic, some people are just psychics. I know people that do have the mediumship function, but they don't use it because they don't want to. They don't want to speak to dead people. So some people just want to use the psychic function, and that's fair enough. So that is, in basic terms, the difference. So if you want someone to talk to you about, if you want to talk to someone about your life, what's going on, a bit of insight, a bit of guidance, go and see a psychic. If you purely want that connection to spirit, go and see a medium. And that's how to differentiate between the two. They are two very different things. And again, I'm just passionate about it only because I think the term psychic is just bandied about so much, and it's used in the wrong terms. So, for example, I see on like TV shows, on like panel shows, a medium will come on and the presenter will say, this week's psychic is, but they're not a psychic, they're a medium. And then when they sit on the panel, the presenter says to them, what predictions have you got? You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
You're asking you're not asked, you're talking to a medium, not a psychic. Yes, the medium has a psychic function, but not all mediums work psychically. And I think that's important to state as well, because I've had mediums come, like when I've had conversation with them, they've said they've had clients come to them and they've started bringing through someone from spirit, and the client says, I don't want to know any of that. I'm here to be told if my husband's having an affair. That is psychic. That person does not need a mediumship reading. They need a psychic. But unless they know the difference, unless people out there know the difference, then they're not going to know who to go to.
That's
because
right.
Again, not all I know most mediums that I know who do platform work in churches and things like that don't do psychic work. They do purely mediumship. So if a person wants to go and see them to be told what their future holds, they're going to the wrong person.
Yeah.
And so that's where the term psychic medium comes in, or spiritual medium. So personally, I don't call myself a psychic medium because the majority of my work is mediumship. So I call myself a spiritual medium, where those mediums that do a lot of psychic work will call themselves a psychic medium because they do the both.
And that's the thing that the problem is with this work. You see people advertise themselves, Glenda Marie, psychic medium. Well, I do both. Yeah. So should we drop off the medium if we don't offer mediumship? Do you know what I mean? There's so many people that call themselves psychic mediums, but they're not mediums.
And I think
it's confusing. It's confusing to people.
Absolutely. And I think they should drop the medium, because ultimately you need to be able to correctly present what you are offering.
That's right.
So if I don't offer psychic readings, I don't call myself a psychic or a psychic medium. I am just a medium, because my readings are purely mediumship, although I do a bit of both now. But I'm predominantly a medium. But if you are a medium who does psychic work as well, then call yourself a psychic medium, because then people know what they're going to get. But it's about representing yourself correctly and presenting the work that you do correctly, so you attract the right customers, the right clients, but also so they know who to go to. So if they want a psychic reading, they're more likely to go to you because you're very good at that as well. No, they also go to you for a mediumship reading as well. But if they see psychic in the title, then if a person wants to know, about their life or whatever, then go and see a psychic. But for me, it's just really important that we represent correctly what we are offering to people and not misleading people with it.
Yeah, and be very clear. It is confusing. And, we say the sitter or the client, or in our little lingo, we call them muggles, they don't know. Muggles, the people booking readings are confused, and, they're going to get let down when they come in and they're expecting something or one or the other, and they don't get it. So people need to be a bit clearer with what they're offering. And I mean, and I'm not going to put anyone down here, but if you're just dishing out cards, doing oracle readings, tarot cards, you're not a medium. So why are you advertising mediumship if you're not offering mediumship? This is very confusing for people. Because I had people say, I went to such and such for reading, but I is expecting them to bring through my dad, and they say they don't do it. And this is where it gets confusing for people. And I get that. It's like I'm booking you to be an electrician and come and do my electrical work, and you get here and all you do is air conditioners. Well, you're not very clear. You know what I mean? Like you're not getting what you're asking for. So, it gets up my goat too.
Yeah. But for me, it just comes from that place of passion, and so people are represented correctly, and that people know what they're getting and not being misled or led down the garden path for a particular type of reading. So it's important that people, again, understand the difference between the two. But that's not just sitters, that's also mediums. I see a lot of demonstrations, and I don't know if when people are working, if they know the difference between when they're working psychically and working mediumistically, which again is a problem. Because if you go to see a medium work in a church, right, in a spiritualist church, you are there for mediumship. You are there because you want to hear from your loved ones in spirit. But so many times I've seen mediums on the platform say, right, I'm coming to you because I feel this from your aura and you've got all this going on in your life. And that's not mediumship. That's psychic.
Yeah. It happens a lot on online platforms.
Yeah. Where people start, and that's also why I don't go direct to people, because if I go direct to a person, it means I'm being drawn to their energy. I don't want to be drawn to their energy. I want spirit to link first to get that pure spirit link, and then someone can say, yeah, that's me. So as much as people like me can sometimes be bad-mouthed because you should know where you're going. No, it's not up to me where I go. I'm not choosing who I go to.
It's up to spirit.
Up to spirit. So that's why I never start with, right, I'm coming to you first, because that then starts you off on a psychic link. And if you are trained as a medium on platform, you are trained as a medium to not work psychically, or at least I was. You are trained to get that spirit link straight away, because that's when the mediumship happens. Now, yes, you might go to it on a psychic link during that demonstration and start picking up something about that person psychically. But if you are, don't say that's coming from Grandad when it's not. Unless Grandad is saying to you, tell my granddaughter or grandson that I know this is happening, then don't say it, because that is their mediumship. If you've got the Grandad saying to you, right, this is the piece of advice I want to give to my grandson or granddaughter, blah blah blah, then that's mediumship. But if you're saying, I'm picking up something from your aura, again, that's psychic. That is not mediumship.
That's
but
it.
Then don't pretend it is when it's not.
That's right. And it's like when people come to me, I always state whenever you're booking with my booking system, any of that, I make it very clear that I can't guarantee who's going to come through, because I'm waiting for that spirit person to step forward. I'm not asking you, David, who do you want to hear from today? Because that's going in psychically. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm waiting for the spirit person to step forward and go, okay, I'm picking up on a gentleman here. He tells me he's your father, or, that's the way I work.
Yeah.
So
I would agree and disagree on one of those. We've got to disagree.
Okay. Well, I think you can go in both ways. Okay. Now this is getting not technical. You can go in both ways. You can. Both ways. You can.
Yeah. My thing is, obviously, when I'm on a platform, right, doing platform demonstrations, you don't ask who you want to hear from, because you just know what's coming in, right? And that's just very much how it works. Whoever shows up this evening shows up. You've got a lot of people in that room, hopefully, a lot of times that's a little bit different. But I have been listening to Hannah McIntyre, as people might know, she's a medium in the UK as well, who outwardly states that she started asking people in her one-to-ones who they want to hear from in spirit. And that's how she starts her link. And I never used to do that, but I have done it a couple of times. And I'll explain why, just from my perspective. But the first thing I'll say is I agree with what you just said, that we can never guarantee who comes through, right?
Yeah.
It could be anyone. It could be your postman that knew you 25 years ago, right? If you've got a connection to someone in spirit, they can come back and say hello, right? So that's the first thing I will say. And as mediums, we always say, no, we can't guarantee that person will step forward. It just depends on the energy and what's available at the time. So we're slightly going off topic from today's episode, but I think that was said. I think it's important that whilst it's fresh in our mind, let's speak about it. So when you ask who do you want to hear from, I don't see that as being, I personally don't see it as being psychic, because you still need, as a medium, to get the evidence. Now, I'm not saying that person's definitely going to step forward, right? They might not. You might say, are you there? And they just don't show up. And that's why I never guarantee it. But most of the time it does happen. For me anyway.
Yeah, same as me.
But it's not psychic. And I have heard other mediums say that as well, if you ask. But we can ask questions, right? But we're still, as a medium, I mean, if you can't back it up with evidence, then you could say, well, that is psychic then, or you're talking out your arse or making it up or whatever. But if
Yeah.
you're going to say to someone in a reading, who do you want to hear from? You still need to describe the person, what they look like, habits, personality, all the other evidence to back that up. And that's still mediumship, because you've still got to grab onto that energy and still bring through the evidence, right? So that's my first point on it. The other thing I was going to say is, I think sometimes when people come to a reading, they've got such expectations about who they want to hear from. And I think sometimes we might use that as a safety net. Who do you want to hear from? Because ultimately, like me and you, especially myself, that have those slight confidence issues in a one-to-one, just being very honest, is that I always want to give my best. And people have paid for a reading. And so you want to give them the best reading that you can, because they've paid for a service.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that they do hear from the person they want to hear from. But look, I know it's not guaranteed. And I know John Edwards, I listened to a podcast with him yesterday. He's very straightforward and says, if your dad don't show up, he don't show up. But he's got that confidence that I'd love to have, where he says to a client, well, basically, tough. You want to hear from your dad, but I've got your father-in-law. For me, I can't quite go there at this point yet. Because for me, it sounds a little bit very straightforward, and actually it could be the reality. But it's also a little bit, I don't know. I just don't like, in any job I've done, I don't like letting people down. And I want them to leave the reading feeling like they have been connected to the right person. So if that takes me saying, look, who do you want to hear from? Let's see if they're there. If that takes me to say that, then that's what I'm going to do to make sure they get the best reading. But again, at the same time, I've still got to back that up. I can't just say, oh, yes, I have got dad here. That's not evidence. I still have to say, da, 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 so they know it's them. But also, when it comes to, we always say, no, we can't guarantee anything.
Yeah.
If we are saying, as not me and you, but in general, mediums, if we are saying that spirit are omnipresent, they're always there, then why can't we just connect to them? So I think sometimes we are contradicting ourselves a little bit as well, not giving ourselves enough credit. Because yes, if we are telling people, oh, your spirits are always there, they're always around you. Well, if that's the case, why can't we then just say, right, Dad, if you're available, come on in. Why are we saying we mustn't do it, or it's this, that? Why? If they're always there, we keep peddling that to everybody. So if that is the truth, why can't we do it? Do you know what I mean? So I think there's sometimes as mediums, we'll have to look at ourselves and go, okay, so what is possible? What's not possible? What is right? What's the right thing to do? What's not the right thing to do? I mean, look at Tyler Henry. When he does his readings, he always grabs onto an object.
He does psychometry.
Now,
he starts off with psychometry.
Yeah, but to us that don't do that, we're looking at him going, why do you need to do that? Why do you need to grab on? If you're a medium,
you don't need anything.
Why do you need that? But it still works for him. So in my mind, I'm trying not to judge him by doing that.
Yeah.
But look how high profile he is. People love him, but he uses a tool to connect, but you don't. So it's the same as saying, why are we asking for who you want to hear from? Do you know? So there's different things here just to think about. Like psychic Sally Morgan, she always looks at a photograph, and I've heard other mediums say to me, "Oh, she's cheating. That's psychic."
Yeah.
But again, it's not if she is backing that up with evidence, because sometimes that photograph might get you into the energy, which is why Tyler Henry hangs on to an object to do psychometry to get him into the energy. Look at Minty May, who we worked with in Littleport.
Yeah,
he held on to an item to get the link.
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot of snobbery in the industry as a whole when we look at how to communicate and what do we use. And ultimately, we don't need any tools, to be perfectly honest. Which should just
be honest. We don't need
tools. We should it's because, as we know, mediumship is through the mind. It's mental mediumship.
That's right.
That's where the connection. That's a whole other topic, a whole other episode. Won't get into that. But it's just, and I might sound like a snob here talking about the difference between the two, but I think that's important.
It is
for people to understand that.
Just to add in on that too, On reflection, the way that I work, we're all unique in the way that we work. And I'm no better than you, you're no better than me, and it doesn't
Great.
matter as long as the person gets what they need on the day, and that the spirit that is stepping forward is heard properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is the thing. But what people don't understand is they book a reading wanting all of this, all the answers and all these things ticked off. They come in with a checklist, I want this said, and I want this said, and I want this said. And if they don't mention that I'm holding that ring in my hand and it's not Dad, do you know what I mean? But they've missed 50 pieces of amazing evidence to this one thing that they needed to be said.
Yeah.
And I'm going off on a tangent here. What I was going back to is I offer 1 hour readings.
Yeah.
You offer half-hour readings. So it also comes down to the time.
Yeah.
I have time to bring through 3 or 4 people. And that's what I usually do. I will bring through the whole family. I'm just like, okay, line up. Here we go. Who wants to step forward first? And that's how I roll. I don't think anybody has left my readings and not heard from the person that they wanted to hear from. And I don't ask them. Every now and then, very rarely, and only of late, I think it was after I listened to Hannah's podcast, I'm like, oh, I might give it a crack. And it's like, okay, who did you, like if there was someone, because I felt there was, when you're in a reading and you kind of go, I feel like they want to hear from someone else. You can feel that urge. And I was like, there's someone else you want to hear from. Who have I missed? Because I feel this, you've heard from that person, and that person, but there's someone else. And then they go, I'm just wondering if this person is around. Okay. And off you go. And once you start bringing through the evidence, you understand that they pass from this, blah, 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 blah. You go through you've definitely got the connection.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
It also comes down to time. Are you giving an hour reading? Are you giving half an hour reading? What else are you offering? I do a combined psychic mediumship reading. So they get both from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try and give equal parts. And do you know what? And sometimes they might just get mediumship for a whole hour. Or they might just get psychic for a whole hour.
Yeah.
I never ask, what are you here for? I believe that spirit, no, never. I've never said, what are you here for? Because I believe that spirit know what they're here for. And I believe that spirit will give them what they need on the day.
Yeah.
That's just how I work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have my people been happy? Absolutely. I get people that come back all the time. So I must be doing something right. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm feeling like they're walking away empowered. They've heard from their loved one. They've got the guidance that they need, and all the boxes are ticked. The other thing is what I think is important is that people need to understand that your loved ones are not going to tell you what to do.
Yes. This
is what really gets up my goat. And it's not...
I love that saying, sorry.
I know, such an Aussie saying, isn't it? It's not... It's because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
They don't know. They think that they're coming. I've had in all my years one person write to me after a reading and said, you know what? I was disappointed because I was expecting my dad or someone to tell me what to do, and he never told me. And I was let down by this. And then I had to explain how it works. That's not how mediumship works. That's a psychic reading. If you want guidance, it's a psychic reading. But she blamed her father for not telling her what to do with her certain situation playing out in her life. People need to understand that this is our life. We need to make the mistakes. We need to go down that journey. They had their life. They experienced what they needed in this lifetime. They're not going to tell you what to do.
Absolutely.
And that is, I kind of feel sorry for spirit in a way, because it's a pressure that's been put on them and an expectation when it's not their job.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And that's also the same. To add to that is the same with psychic readings. A good psychic will never tell you what to do either. A
Absolutely. I
psych,
say that all the time.
absolute, and really people, psychic. I think when we talk about the term psychic, just going back to that, um, I think we use the word psychic, people automatically link it straight to predictions. Because again, I
Yeah.
was listening to a podcast a while ago, and nothing to do with spirituality at all. It was a comedian was being interviewed, and he's quite he said it's quite psychic. He gets little hits, and it's come up on the subject. He said, "Yeah, I'm a little bit psychic," and the interviewer automatically jumped to, "Well, what have you predicted?" Like, that's not what psychic is. Yes, psychic predictions can come with it, but
Yeah.
a psychic, as I said at the beginning, it's about picking up on energy, reading the energy, interpreting energy of what's going on around us, around you, whatever else. It's not all about predictions. We are not Nostradamus sat here. Um, so when someone comes to see a psychic, it's important to say, as you just said, like a medium, a good psychic will never tell you what to do because we don't have all the answers. Your life is your life. You've got free will.
Free
People
will.
around you have got free will. Other people's free will could change the outcome of your life. And so psychic readings are also just about maybe giving a little bit of insight, maybe giving a little bit of guidance and something to think about. But ultimately, as people, we have those choices to go, do I listen to that? Do I not? Do I make these changes? Do I not? So we're also never going to tell you what to do, people. Whether you're psychic or medium, that should not be the case. Those readings should be empowering you to go, right, I need to think about this. I need to see if I make that decision or that choice with a little bit of insight that I've just been given. So that's what it's about. So I just wanted to add that in there.
That's it. Feeling good about the choices you're going to make, being empowered to have that strength and that confidence to move forward. That's what I always say to my clients. It's like, I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm going to say to you, I see this and this playing out.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's up to you to make those choices. Yes, I do give predictions. Yes, people will write to me and say, oh my God, what you said came true. At the end of the day, you have free will. You can change the outcome. And it's sometimes we might be just reading what's going on in the here and now, and you might make a totally different choice in a year's time, or in a week's time, or it's up to you how you change. You choose to what path you choose to go down. So we have to be very careful, and that's why it's so important. When I hear these horror stories about what psychics have been saying, I've had people come and say, oh, that psychic down the road told me my husband's going to die in a year. And this is multiple people that have said this to me. That psychic told me I'm going to have a car accident. And guess what? I did have a car accident. Why the fuck would you want to know that?
Yeah.
Like, really? If I got told all this sort of stuff going to a reading, I would walk out of there mortified. I would walk out of that reading freaking out in my head. The anxiety would be playing up going, oh my God. And then do you then bring that on by having a car accident? It's like, why are you giving such negative readings? That has to be looked at as well. Like, people need to be accountable for the things that they say in a mediumship and a psychic reading, not mediumship, in a psychic reading. Because
why would you want to distress people?
That's right. It's damaging. And what is our favorite saying from our fairy godfather?
Our words have the power to either uplift or destroy.
By Bill Hughes.
Yeah.
We live by those words. And our number one is do no harm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the thing. Oh, gee, we were on a tangent today, aren't we?
This episode has gone a completely different way than what we planned. But it shows people it's just raw. It's nothing convoluted. It's come up. So rather than push it aside or forget about it, we just talk about it. Because we were saying earlier, people, before we hit the record button, sometimes we get intuitive hits or inspiration in the most unexpected places. Like me, it's normally in the shower.
Absolutely.
And if I don't write it down, I forget, and I've lost that whole great idea that I had. because I've just not written it down, because it's not come from me, it's come from upstairs. And so my point really is that if it's on our mind and we're talking about it, just talk about it, because then we know it's out and it's meant to be talked about for whatever reason in this episode. So there you go.
Yes, so
We love a
that's it.
tangent.
We love a tangent. We'll go down this path and this path and this path, but staying on path. I get a lot of intuitive hits in the shower, when I'm swimming in my pool, always around water, sitting on the throne, on the toilet. It's like when you're so relaxed, these intuitive hits happen. You know what I mean? So what kind of hits do you get, David?
I'll give you just a little example from yesterday. And people, this is just to show the examples we're going to give is just to show you that when we talk about intuitive hits and psychic hits, they're not necessarily life-changing things. They're just little things that remind us that we are somewhat tuned into something somewhere. So it's a really silly example, but yesterday, I know it was Monday actually, I was getting ready to go to one of my art events that I teach, as you know. And I was meant to have a girl with me who was like doing a trial training session. So that was all planned. Had been planned for weeks. And then for whatever reason, I was getting myself ready, and the lady from the office said, "Okay, what time you come to collect the equipment?" So I said, and then in my head, I heard, "Let's call her Amanda," because that's her name. And she said, and she said, and in my head, I heard Amanda's pulled out. Literally 30 seconds later, I get a text message saying, "Oh, unfortunately, Amanda's just pulled out." Now, I had no reason to think that because it's been booked for weeks and she's on a trial training session. So you would have thought anyone that's coming to their trial would be there. But no, she wasn't. So that's just a tiny example of just that intuitive hit that we get. Yes, it's not like life-changing, but it's just gives an example of we can all have those little intuitive hits. What about you, Glenda? What hits are you getting? You're very psychic.
I know. I get a lot. Just like, and then when you ask me in the moment, I'm like, I can't blank.
I'm the same.
Well, as my clients would know, I get a lot. Personal ones. Yes, I can pick up on people. I can pick up on things that are going to happen, that things are going to play out. I'll give you one little one. So my son, when he was at school, he had this teacher that, oh my God, this teacher just rode him, just was always picking on him. She would always ring home and complain about him. And she was just one of those pain in the ass teachers that just wouldn't give him a break. And I was dropping him off at school, and I said to him, "Your teacher's away today. You're going to have that. Let's just call her Beryl." But I don't even know what her name was. No, let's call this teacher Beryl.
Okay.
"You're going to have Beryl today." He says, "No, I won't. I've got such and such." I said, "No, your teacher's off. You're going to have Beryl, and she's going to antagonize you so that you snap and you have a crack at her and she kicks you out of class. So just be careful. This is your heads up." He got into class. He messaged me. "You were spot on." Came home and he said, "She did exactly that, Mum. But I kept cool like you told me to. And she had a crack at me outside and I still kept my cool. And the situation was diffused." So I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. It's a little intuitive hit.
Yeah. And I mean, you get a lot of them. Even this morning, going out for lunch, one of my girlfriends said that she couldn't make it. She was working. I picked up as soon as I woke up. "No, she's going to come." And the next minute, as I'm leaving, she said, "I can make it, girl." So she came. I pick up on these sort of things all the time. It'd be good to pick up on other things, but like the lottery numbers. I know, like everyone expects us to know.
That's the typical thing. If you're so psychic, you'll give me the lottery numbers. I know people sometimes say it in jest, but I think, oh, come on now. But also, this is another little thing that makes me laugh. Is I've heard someone say, "If you're so psychic, tell me what colour underpants I've got on today." And I'm like, well, number one, why do you think I'd want to know what color underwear you've got on today? Because I'm really not that interested. And number two, how does that help you by me knowing that? And I think that's another thing to say with psychic stuff as well, is that it should always be of value. Whatever you're giving to people should always be of value and what's going to help that person or that situation. So knowing what's color your underwear is, that holds no value at all. It's actually a bit like the lotto numbers. I wished I could get the lotto numbers, and I wish we all could, because we wouldn't be sitting here today. I'd be on a tropical beach somewhere, having a lovely time.
You'd own the tropical beach.
I'd own it. I'd own a few of them. But you've got to look at that and go, well, one, we're not meant to know everything anyway.
No.
But also, what actually is the value of knowing those lotto? I'm just going off a tangent here as well. But what is the value of knowing the lottery numbers? Because if someone that you love dearly, no matter who they are, has died, how do those lotto numbers replace that?
That's right.
How do those lotto numbers make you happy? You've just lost someone. So yes, it's lovely to have extra money, have a lot of money, but those lotto numbers do not replace the person you've just lost in spirit. But I don't think people think about that. I'm talking about the skeptics here, because they just want to know, if you're so psychic, you'll do this, do that. No, because there's only certain things that we're meant to know. We're meant to know things that are going to be a benefit of people, that holds some value. And I can give you all the money in the world, but all the money in the world does not bring your father back, your brother back, God forbid, your child back.
Yeah.
And I think people,
That's
those
right.
skeptics who know Satan's like, need to think about that. This is not a game. We pick up what we're meant to pick up. And
we're not puppets. We're
No,
not puppets on a string.
no. And these people say, well, you should know this about me, or you should know that about me. Why? Why do you think I want to know that about you? I remember I had a manager. I worked for a company. I worked for Booking.com. Give all my secrets away. And my manager, who was a bit scatty, not scatty, she's intelligent, but she's just a bit mad. And she found out what I was doing, and her first thing was to me, well, if you see what's going on in my mind, don't talk to me about it. I'm like, well, my darling, what makes you think I actually want to know what's going on in your head? Because stories you tell, I really don't want to know. And if our minds were always full of every single thing that's going on, we'd just be a vegetable. We would not be able to operate on this planet if we're meant to know every single thing about every single person that we come into contact with. I know people listening to this are intelligent, so they're going to know that. But believe me, there are people out there who think that we should know everything about every single person that we're in a room with. And it just don't work that way. And I was going to have another point as well, and I've completely forgotten it. So, no, I'm not just going to ask. So, Glenda, based on all that we've just talked about, do you think, because this is a topic people talk about, that everyone is not medium, but everyone is psychic? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about everyone's psychic. I know everyone's intuitive. I think we're all intuitive. And I feel like we all get hits. And this is another whole tangent. We could talk about past life stuff. And if you've been here before and, oh my gosh, like this feels familiar. But I feel like we're all intuitive. Are we all psychic? I don't know, because there's a difference between being intuitive and being psychic. So I probably say no. Probably have to say no there. I feel like we're all intuitive, and our souls are connected, and we all can connect. We can, I always say it's a soul to soul reading, because I'm reading your soul, I'm reading your auric field, I'm reading your energy, I'm reading what's going on with your life. So is that intuitive? Is that psychic? What do you want to call it? Can you give me predictions? Because I can give you predictions. So it's a hard one, that one. What do you think?
No, I absolutely, I agree with you. I think again, the word psychic is bandied about quite a lot. And and I think, again, being honest, without sounding like a snob, I'm not trying to be a snob, it's just getting terminology right. When I hear psychics on the TV show being interviewed and they say, well, everybody's psychic, my toes start to curl a little bit. Because, like you say, I believe that everybody is intuitive. I just think as humans,
Mhm.
We are more than just this physical body with a logical brain, which we all have. We are all intuitive. And I feel even the most skeptical person in the world can still be intuitive. But as you say, is for me, it's different to being psychic. I think being psychic is a different level. I think being psychic, I guess, if I put just to put, I don't know, make basic terminology, for me, psychic is the professional word, if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
where intuition is built into all of us and we all get
Absolutely.
it. The mums listening to this podcast now will get those intuitive feelings where they feel like the child is not well, or something happened at school today. They don't know why they know it, but it's just that feeling. That is intuitiveness. But the intuitiveness is the foundation for the ability of being psychic. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, it does. It
I
does.
feel that's probably where I want to go with it. So we can, again, you can all have those little hits where you think, oh, I need to call that person. I know that a lot of mediums use this or psychics use this example, but you could be thinking that, oh, I need to ring that person, and that person rings you, or you find out that something's happened to that person, but it's just your little intuition is saying, something's not quite right, or something's not sitting right.
Mhm.
That is your intuitiveness. I also, if you
Absolutely.
look at the police, and I mentioned this in my book, that the police detectives are known as being very logical people and they need evidence, which I agree with, right? Police
Yeah.
do need tangible evidence. But those hunches that they get are intuitive hits. But they're
They
not
just
going to
don't want to
sit there,
call it.
they don't want to call it, oh, it's my intuition or it's a psychic hit. They call it something else.
Mm.
But it is their intuition, their instincts which are pulling them to look at something or to consider something. They could just be sat at their desk and something drops in the head and they go, oh,
I'm going to go back
I
to
didn't think
that.
about
Hang
that.
on. There's something here.
There's something here. That is the intuitive hit that they're getting because it's not that they're sat there um, consciously thinking about something. It's just they're doing a bit of work and something just drops into the head out of nowhere. That's just that intuitive hit that they are getting to help them on their way. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And I love that you used the mother and the child because that connection, that intuitive feeling, every mother knows that feeling. There's
Yeah.
something wrong. No, I really need to take my son to the doctors. There's something wrong. There's, those, and those moments can be life-saving.
Did the same thing with my little dog a couple of years
Same.
ago.
Yeah.
So I knew something wasn't right with her, and Mother Hubs go, "No, I think she's fine." I said, "There's something not right here." We took her to the vet, and she had a condition called pyometra, where her uterus filled up completely with pus, and
Oh,
she could have died. And I had to chase her, run her across London to have emergency surgery, otherwise she would not be here. But something in me said, "There's something not right with her. There's something I don't know what it
absolutely.
is, but there's something not right here." And that's the thing, you can't always put your finger on it.
Mm,
Sometimes
that's
it's
right.
just and I think sometimes we do
That
wind
feeling.
ourselves up going, oh, I must know what it is. But sometimes it is just that feeling you can't explain that something isn't right or something is right on the positive as well. So
Yeah.
it's just paying attention, people, to your little hits that you get. And it's not saying that you're a psychic or you're going to be the world's next greatest psychic, but it is paying to those intuitive hits that are there to help you. They're
To
there to
trust
serve
them.
you, trust them.
Don't, how
As
many,
mad as they might be,
I mean, how many times do you hear a client say, I knew he was cheating on me. I knew it, but I
yeah,
just ignored it.
yeah,
You knew it. You knew
yeah.
it. How many
I think
times, if you've been cheated on yourself, you knew
yeah.
it. If you take a step back to reflect, you knew it. Most of the time, you ignored it. You didn't want to know it. You had a feeling something wasn't right, but you go against that intuition.
And I've been there,
Me
but
too.
I've certainly learnt. But it's not until now that I look back and go, oh. So I had just to give a personal example. You know, if people want to get to know us a bit more personally, I've not really talked about this publicly, but I'll talk about it now. Um, so I was in a relationship. I call it a relationship, but I kind of don't even include it as as a relationship really, but it was only like a month and a half, 2 months. And this is way back. This is before I did any psychic, before I knew I was psychic, medium, whatever. And it was about 2 weeks in, and something, I can't explain it, but something in me said, check his iPad, check his iPad, check his iPad. And I don't know what, an innate feeling that something was not right. Check his iPad. And whilst I was in the kitchen one day cooking dinner, I checked his iPad. And what did I find?
Hello.
Yeah. What they call sexts to other people. And later down the line, videos that he was sending of himself to God knows who. And if I hadn't checked that, I would never have known. But something in me, and look, some people say, "Oh, you're paranoid." It wasn't that, because I was very, very happy for those 2 weeks. But something just out of the blue said something is not right. And again, this before I was doing any psychic work, anything like that. And so it's
same thing. Before I was doing any of this work.
Yeah. I think sometimes we talk ourselves out of it because we don't want it to be true. We want to think, oh, I'm just paranoid, or maybe I'm just too in love that I don't see it, or whatever it might be. So we try and talk ourselves out of it.
We want to believe it. That's exactly what I was saying to a friend today. I want to believe the good in people.
Yeah.
I really want to. I want to believe that I'm wrong when I pick these things up. Yeah. But yet again, I'm always proven that I'm right, and not going by ego, but it's like, I want to go against my intuition. Please prove me wrong, that I'm wrong about this person. Yet again, I'm always right. So you need to trust that. And that takes time. It takes time of trust and patience and believing in yourself. And for us, doing the work every day, you're working that muscle, that confidence, like that comes with time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you still kind of go, how many freaking times do I need to do this to learn? Oh my God, the lessons.
And that's exactly what it is. It's lessons. That's the only way we're going to learn from it. It's just the lessons. If everything in life was rosy and whatever else,
we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be it. We wouldn't be learning anything. We'd
still be in heaven.
Yeah, there'd be nothing to learn from.
No, so that's why we come here. And people say, that old saying, "Oh, I've killed a Chinaman." How many Chinamen was that? Killed all the? What's that saying? How many Chinamen did I kill in this lifetime? Everything's.
I heard that one.
You don't know that one. Okay, so when it's like, when something's going wrong and it's one thing after another, and you say, I must have run over a Chinaman. So well, that's one you have to look up, David. And you think, why is everything happening? It's hard to explain it to someone that's going through such a hard time.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it is, heaven is so beautiful. I've been over to the other side with my near-death experience, how I felt, how beautiful it was, how euphoric, how full of love it was. I didn't want to come back here because it was so amazing. There's no pain in heaven. There's no evil. There's none of that. But because it's so good over there, this is my interpretation of heaven. We get bored and we go, okay, I want to come down and I want to experience this. I want to experience this. I want to experience this. Because here, this world that we're in is school.
Yeah, school.
It's one lesson after another for us.
Yeah.
And I always say, and like my mum always used to say to me, sweetheart, when things are just going absolute shit, and it feels like you're on that cycle, expect it to change. It can't always be shit. And when things are really good, expect some things to come up and be a bit of a rough road, because it can't always be the same.
Yeah.
Things change and we evolve and we learn from them. It can't stay the same. This is about us. It's about evolution. It's about us learning and evolving and becoming better versions of ourselves. I feel like sometimes we go, what lesson did I need to learn in this lifetime that I didn't learn in the last lifetime? So that goes again, going on another tangent about, past lives and all that sort of stuff. So another podcast, but But I do believe that we need to keep trusting our intuition. We need to believe in ourselves, because most of the time it's right.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice to end this episode on, Glenda. And advice from your mum there, definitely. Well, we've talked a lot in this podcast, actually. We did go off on different tangents, but again, I think if it is on the tongue to talk about, then we talk about it, because then it's just raw and it's just fresh, and we're not necessarily planning exactly what to say. And I think that's a good thing, because it shows the reality of this podcast, I think.
I think so. It's lounge. It's the spirit lounge.
It's the lounge. We're just lounging out over here. Yeah.
Lounging out here over nighttime here and daytime there.
Daytime here, yeah. It's still quite a strange concept to me that it's only 20 past 11 in the morning here. And what time's it there for you?
20 past 8 at night.
So shortly you'll be going to bed and I'm going to the gym. Just trying to get my head around that still. But yeah, people, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. But with that, I'm going to stop rambling now, as I always do. So it is bye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Take care, people.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out, and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.